It is recording. All right.
All right.
Hey, Jeremy, thank you so much for taking your time and accept this really brief, informal sessions just so that the students in my
Yeah.
software architecture and design class can learn more about software development in
Yeah. My
the
my pleasure, Young.
virtual reality gaming world.
Yeah.
Um, so I briefly told my student that you used to work at Microsoft making decent money, especially in California. So
Mm-hmm.
what made you, or what some of the factors that helped you to determine that you are bored with your regular job and want to pursue something else that much more adventurous, such as like having a startup company?
Yeah.
What made your entrepreneurial spirit become so dedicated?
Yeah. So it's like everybody's story is different. So here's mine. My story actually started when I was 14.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to start my own company, do something in tech, do something with VR, with holograms, with engineering, and that sort of stuff. And sort of be CEO of my own company ever since I was in 14. So I'd
Mm-hmm.
actually been working towards it throughout high school, throughout Georgia Tech is where I went to school
Mm-hmm.
for university, and then all the way through Microsoft. So starting from high school, I had been recruiting people and talking to people, and like keeping in close touch with really close friends
Mm-hmm.
who I wanted to be on my team at Georgia Tech. I studied computer engineering for 4 years, and at that in my third year of Georgia Tech, I started my own team and basically worked on like little startup projects.
Mm-hmm.
Called it the IEEE Innovation Team at Georgia Tech, and sort of that gave me some experience in terms of like project management and leadership and
Mm-hmm.
recruiting people onto a team and sort of start doing something with creating something with nothing.
Okay.
And then at Microsoft, I sort of from day one I said, I'm going to give myself 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
2 years, make a little money and learn as much as I can from really some of the best engineers and the best
Mm-hmm.
managers from all around the world at Microsoft.
Wow.
So I started at Microsoft on Xbox One, and from there, I'd say like I learned it was the last 3 months right before they shipped
Mm-hmm.
Xbox One back I forget the year, but just learning what their process is and how the people
Wow.
manage the projects and how everything was on fire. You'd have no
Yeah,
idea just
yeah.
watching the advertisement and stuff, but like it looked like it wasn't going to land, and there was a bunch of stuff that was missing and everything was broken, but like just the laser focus of all the engineers, the
Mm-hmm.
managers,
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
developers, and everybody,
Wow.
and just me being inside all of that
Mm-hmm.
tornado and learning how they used process and just how they thought through
Mm-hmm.
solving problems and
Mm-hmm.
made that happen. So learned a lot from there, and then I worked on HoloLens for the rest of my time at Microsoft.
Wow.
The switch happened when, oh, and I forgot to mention, so as part of one of the projects that I worked on at Georgia Tech when I started the
Mm-hmm.
IEEE Innovation Team was a thing called RoboBear.
Mm-hmm.
I had a big passion for education, for essentially bringing higher education like robotics and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that to earlier levels of education. So RoboBear, I went around and taught elementary school students college level robotics with robotic teddy bears,
Wow.
and I continued that as a side project at Microsoft, just kind of
Mm-hmm.
doing it on weekends for fun with local schools. Um, so the switch happened at the end of my second year of Microsoft when HoloLens announced that they were going to ship. And the reason that's important is because I'd always wanted to create a VR arcade company.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially a type of gaming experience where you can run around with your friends, completely in VR, completely wireless, free roam across an arena, across a warehouse, and live a virtual world
Mm-hmm.
experience.
Amazing, dude.
Totally immersive, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and something you can't get at home. And that's what I'm doing right now. So the reason HoloLens and the announcement of HoloLens was important is because there was a technology in HoloLens called inside-out tracking, where it essentially enables you to basically run around free roam a warehouse and have you track in VR or AR as much as you want. So when they announced, the day they announced, or the week they announced when they were going to ship HoloLens, because when a company announces something, it's like, oh, like before it was a complete secret project, so nobody had heard about it. We all kept it secret, but the day they, and then at any point during that time before they announced it, they could have just canceled it just like that. So the day they announced meant they were serious about it, they were going to ship it, and that was, and then the Saturday of that week that they announced, I was like, okay, I'm leaving Microsoft. This is everything I need. I can start this company.
Okay.
So the next Monday, I literally went to my manager and said, okay, I'm gonna head out now. This is my 2-week notice, and then I'm gonna start my own company. And I started off with RoboBear as my first startup to sort of get my feet in the water, make some money, because I knew RoboBear could make money. I had made some money before with RoboBear teaching classes. And I also really wanted to travel across the country, so I used that chance to travel across the entire United States, from Seattle to across Nevada to Texas to Virginia, Maryland, and down to Key West, Florida, and just all around Louisiana, everything. And so I sort of used RoboBear as an excuse to travel across the country, and I went to schools all across the country and taught classes, made a little money. And then when I finished the road trip, I ended up back in California, because I always knew I wanted to land in Silicon Valley, California. That's where all the tech, all the people who are doing startups are, and just the people are just so important just to get anything done in the
pretty much the whole community, right?
Yeah. So essentially, and I'll kind of finish off the story with I did RoboBear, that paid the rent for a little while, and then I held the first VR arcade conference, which was really marked the beginning of this company.
Wow. Okay.
I came down to Silicon Valley, and all these friends that I had made through high school, through college, and at Microsoft, and in Silicon Valley, they were all working remotely, and I was sort of just by myself here in San Jose. And we were like, well, we have no idea what we're doing, but we know a couple people all around the world who are doing sort of what we wanted to do. Let's invite them all to San Jose, and let's talk, let's meet, and let's have a conference, and let's discuss partnerships and how we can help each other, share content, share best practices, learnings, and figure out what hardware people are using and processes and strategies. So we did that. We invited people from all around the world. Zero latency VR, which I consider as like the grandfather of VR arcades. They started way back. Their Kickstarter back when I was in college, and I sort of idolized them since then. And they came to speak, and everybody, a bunch of people came in from that conference. Most importantly, my team flew in from all across the country, from Virginia, from Maryland, from Seattle, and those guys. And they sort of saw the conference. They're like, oh, this is actually happening. So they started actually coming on board full time, which I would say is the biggest challenge of starting a company, is just recruiting your core team. Right. Because without a team, you don't really have anything. Right. You're just by yourself doing a project. So that was the biggest significance of the conference. It's got the team on board, and also we got all the partnerships we needed to basically launch a company and create our first product, open our first VR arcade. It had the hardware, had the software, had the games and everything. So that's how we started, and that's how I made the jump from Microsoft. And
nice,
sort of how I started from middle school as well.
Nice, dude. Yeah. Wow.
That's the journey.
I didn't know you already have the vision back when you were just 14.
That's amazing. It's funny.
Yeah, back when I was 14, all I did was just playing games all day.
No. That was me too. So like the game that inspired me was Yu-Gi-Oh, the card game, and the TV show, the anime.
Right. I mean, the game that inspired me too, but just to be the best gamer out in the world, not to be a game creator.
Inspirations can come from anywhere, so you just got to find what makes you happy and what you're passionate about, and you will naturally gravitate towards that.
Amazing.
And you will learn that, and you will improve on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's something huge. Like, I'm pretty sure the students would appreciate the fact that you were the project manager for the Xbox One. A bunch of my students are just straight up gamers. Yeah. So it's just some interesting facts. But so you said your now teammates who weren't your teammate before flew into the conference. So the important thing is to be able to share your vision across everyone and you get them to on board with the same idea, and they have to also share and believe in the same vision, right? But
Yeah.
obviously you couldn't just start out by selling vision. How do you monetarily or from a financial perspective get people to buy into the idea so that they would commit their time into working with you on this project full time instead of just part time?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. And it's absolutely necessary to sort of know how to do that if you're going to get anything started or have a team. I'm going to say there's three parts. Though, and I want to say the number one most important thing is for me that I found is autonomy. So
Okay.
the people on my team, the way I think about it, they don't work for me. They work for themselves. Everybody, the reason we've survived for this long, the reason why everybody's still here is because everybody sees value in what they're doing, and it's value add to their own goals. Whether their goal is to learn how to make a video game from scratch, or whether their goal is to get a business experience and how to start their own startup, or whether their own goal is becoming a better artist or designer, or their goal is to create a sustainable model where they can work with their friends.
Okay.
So working for creating a work environment where everybody feels like they're working for themselves, and every day they're doing something that improves themselves, that's betters themselves. I think is the number one biggest factor of why we're still a team. Number two, so sort of starting the company, that was sort of the fundamental principle, is that this is what you're going to be able to learn, and this is the experience you're going to get out of it. Number two, I would say, would be the conference. Like, how do you convince somebody with nothing? Well, you got to create something out of nothing first, right?
Right.
So we had nothing. I was building a game and then had some help from those guys remotely. They all had their own full-time jobs. So constantly trying to create something to prove that we can do something, create a product. And on top of that, the conference was a big, we made something out of nothing. And then having the conference as a deadline, and to go, hey, well, we got to demo something. So the whole team kind of got together and we started building this thing to demo. And when the team actually saw, we actually created something out of nothing, that was a big, okay, yeah, we can do this. So a proof of concept, we can actually create something. And number three would be the financials that you described, and what also helped kind of grease the wheels at the beginning was we got an angel investment funding, or we got an angel investor interested in us early on, just through connections, and this is when like Patrick, one of our CTO, was still working remotely in Virginia, and but we didn't really follow up and talk with the investor until after the conference. But that sort of helped as well in terms of like security and stability, and saying, we proved we can create a product, we got some money that can give us this amount of runway, and you're ultimately working for yourself. So I think those three things combined in that order is what sort of makes it possible.
Nice. Very, very inspirational. I feel like I learned so much from just what you have been telling me right now.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate it. So based on your experience managing product at Microsoft, especially like product development like the Xbox One and the HoloLens, do you think software development for a product-oriented company like Microsoft is very, very similar to a virtual reality game? And what are some of the similarities between designing software for a specific system versus designing software for a gaming system?
Okay. So let's see. Let's think about how to break this down. The processes are pretty much the same. From conceptualization of, it begins at the problem, right? Like, so a lot of engineers, a lot of successful engineers start with the problem. What is a problem that's facing our customer, right? Whether it's a business customer or a consumer customer, like a video game player. And then how do we design a solution to solve that problem? So that design process of identifying a problem and then designing a solution around the problem that addresses the problem, to prototyping phases, to testing the prototype, proof of concept, to actual like planning and development cycles and testing, and then actually releasing and shipping, and then updates and maintenance. Like all of that is very, very similar. I would say, one of the biggest obvious differences is just the audience or the customer, like who it's for, right? So if you were to work at a more standard software engineering company, let's say they create software for productivity or for enterprise, the stuff that makes money, then those people's needs, your customers' problems will be very different from like a video game player's problem. So I'd say, yeah, that's sort of the best way I can answer that. But fundamentally, the processes are very much the same. You're problem solving as an engineer and a developer. Yeah.
Right, so I would imagine that for regular software development, the requirements are a lot clearer than when you have to design and develop a gaming system for gamers, because for a gamer you sort of have to think of the game yourself and have to come up with the requirements yourself, whereas in regular software development you have the requirement given to you. Would you agree?
I would say all of that depends on the company structure and how big of a company it is.
Okay.
So I would say more so a very big software engineering company and a very big game development company would actually be very, very similar.
Okay.
And a very small software engineering company, a very small game development company would be very, very similar.
Okay.
Meaning, if you're in a small company, or if you're in a company that's very fluid, where everybody does everything, then let's say you got hired in to be a software developer, you might be doing design, you might be doing testing, you might be doing like prototyping, you might be doing the actual software development. You could be wearing a lot of hats, but in a much bigger company, you would probably have a specific role for the person who writes the spec, the person who does the customer research, person who does prototyping, person who does the development for the actual product, and the person who does the testing, and then the person who does the updates and the maintenance. So I in my experience, I would say it's more dependent on the type of the company, culture of the company, and size of the company.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. So give me an example. How do you guys actually do any architecture for virtual reality gaming, like software architecture, and then do you actually also use for a better word, UML diagram, just to draw out the collaboration between the different components in your code? How do you do code version, and how do you control your code?
Okay, I'll answer the architecture piece first. So absolutely, it is an absolute requirement that you have to architect any code for a software engineering application or for a game.
Okay.
Because if you don't, your game's not going to be very scalable.
Right.
You're going to have multiple developers, and they're not going to know what works with what, or what the best practices are. You have to set what the rules and what the architecture is and how people are going to do things. And then have the architect with the long-term scalability and what the possible features could happen in mind. Really, a game is software, right?
Right.
So it's basically the same thing as an engineering software.
Okay.
So you absolutely have to architect it. If you don't, then it's going to be a huge mess later on.
Okay.
So you'll lose a lot of money, you lose a lot of time, you lose a lot of wasted work and stuff like that. And yes, we do use diagrams to visually show, because not only does the architect have to architect it, they have to communicate it to all the other developers. And a diagram is a very useful way to communicate it, and just say, oh, look at the diagram, this is how it works, and somebody can just look at the diagram and understand. It's a good communication tool.
That's the number one thing I keep telling my student anyway, is that no one gonna spend time and read through a bunch of text. Just show them diagram. Less is more in software development, right? Especially if you have a really clear diagram, you can literally hand it off to anyone around the world, and they should be able to understand what is it that they need to develop.
Yeah, and I would understand if I was a student sitting there in class right now and thinking, it's tedious, I don't want to do a diagram. And that's a perfectly fine way to think about it. And that's how I thought about it as a student as well. I think as you do more projects and get a little more experience, and you make those mistakes, and you do a project without the diagram, you do a project without thinking about the architecture at all, and then you end up with a project that's terrible and
Right.
unscalable, and you want to do something. There's a ton of bugs. You make one like you cannot troubleshoot it. When you have another developer come on, they have no idea what to do, or they go, "What the hell is this?"
Right.
Like I think just experiencing that
Uh-huh.
will help the understanding of why do I even need to architect,
Right.
or why do I need to
Right.
use a
I mean,
diagram?
don't even have to go that
Uh,
far, right? Just like even with regular company, when you hire someone new on board, it's better to hand them some diagram and walk them through exactly how their current system integrated with all the other system within the enterprises.
right,
Because otherwise, there's no way we can just write it down, all the system for them, have them read, have them memorize everything. That's not possible at all.
right, exactly. Your second question was source control. We use GitHub. GitHub's
Mm-hmm.
huge. It's great. So we use GitHub, and we have processes to independent branches for our own features and for our own devs,
Yeah.
and then we have master, and then we have a test procedure before
Mm-hmm.
pushing things to master, merging things to master. We have best practices in terms of coding and pushing things to avoid merge conflicts. So if somebody's going to work on something that's very commonly shared across everybody, we call it out, and we say, hey, we're making a change, we're making a scene change or whatever, and so yeah, we use GitHub for source control.
So what are some of the major programming languages that you guys use for game development?
Yeah, for game development, we use C# exclusively because we use the Unity game engine. There's another game engine out there called Unreal Game Engine, which is what more AAA studios use, but less so VR. Everybody in VR uses Unity. In Unreal, you use C++. So when you go out in industry, it's usually like C++, C, that type of stuff. At Microsoft, it was usually C++ for the higher level, closer to UI stuff, and lower level, back-end platform stuff was C, written in C. So yeah.
I took some game development classes before, and I actually experienced with Unity, and I really like it. I think it's especially useful because you can make both regular computer game and mobile game using the same platform, if you will.
Yeah.
And as far as UDK, Unreal Development Engine, from my experience with it, it seems more like for first-person shooter.
Yeah,
whereas
absolutely.
Unity is usually for for a more generalized audience. You can make any game in Unity if you want.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah. Fortnite is done in Unreal.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Well, Epic Games is the guys who make the Unreal Engine, and they made Fortnite essentially as like a sample, almost as like a show, to show off the engine.
Right.
And then Pokemon Go is made in Unity. So.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
Never know
Pokemon
that,
Go is
dude.
made in Unity. Yeah.
Wow.
So
I guess a lot of game development focus more on utilizing the graphic card on the computer. So for C++, I would imagine the student would have to know. I'm assuming OpenGL, since that dealing directly with the graphic card and how you manipulate different, basically just triangle shape and form them into the object that you want.
We haven't had to work with OpenGL, but when you get that technical, you have to ask my devs. I'm not the expert in that area.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
But that's really all I have. I think this was very, very informative. Basically, like what you said, if you gotta have a vision first before you can go prove out that vision that actually workable and make slowly but surely, sort of like evolutionary prototype to prove that the vision will soon, for lack of a better word, is realizable.
Yeah.
Right.
And I have a few sort of closing remarks, if you don't mind me sharing.
So yeah. Go ahead.
Something that I sort of learned in the past several years, from college to working for 2 years and then doing my own company, was you might be in school right now and you might be taking classes. You might have sort of an idea of where you want to work, or like, oh, I like computers, or I like tech, or I like this area, I like that area. But you might be taking some classes and you go, oh, maybe this isn't that much fun, or like I don't really enjoy this, or I can't imagine myself doing this for 8 hours a day. That was me with all my programming classes. Like I got a D in my C++ programming class in Georgia Tech, and I'm working in software, and I worked at Microsoft, and I'm doing my own software company right now. So it's perfectly okay to be taking a class and go, man, I don't know if this is the right thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, in my story, even though programming wasn't the thing for me, I found like the project management side of it very fitting for me, and I was able to go out and explore. Hey, maybe I should start my own team while I'm in school to explore that passion. So I would say the number one most. It's great that you're already in whatever majors you guys are, computer science, computer engineering. That's great. And if you have a passion, go and pursue it, because that's most likely what you will excel at. That's what most likely will make you happy, and that's what most likely you'll be doing in the long run.
Absolutely.
Honestly, what you'll land in.
Yep.
So don't be afraid to go and explore. It doesn't have to be just programming. Go chase your passion. Go and you will find something there.
I mean, that's
sure.
That's the same thing that I have been telling all of my students, is that just because they are in software engineering major doesn't mean that they have to be a programmer after graduation. Software engineers is pretty broad. They could be, business analysts, where they just analyzing and extracting the requirements from the customers, or they could
marketing.
Be
sales,
marketing,
or business
project
development,
management, whatever. There's a ton of paths. DBA, programmer,
customer research, debugger, whatever.
User center design, UX designer, UX developer. There's a whole bunch. So don't. I keep telling them, don't just limit themselves to think that I cannot code, so I should change my major. But don't think of it that way. Think of it as a pretty broad degree that allow you to pick whatever path you want to pursue after you have the degree.
Right, and there will be a job out there for you, and if you're not, go make that job yourself.
Right, if not, just contact Jeremy, right? Alright, dude, that's all I have. Thank you so much for taking out some of your very, very valuable time, even though you're driving right now. Sorry, I didn't mean to keep you distracted on the road.
No, I'm good.
But I posted a video to my student, and I sent it out to the entire Kennesaw University as well. I'm sure people will appreciate this talk, especially I know a lot of our students have pretty good entrepreneurial spirit, but they just don't know where to start. Hopefully this talk will inspire them, especially for the people in software development and computer game development. Okay, that's all. Thank you so much, Jeremy. I appreciate your time.
I wish all the students the best, and thanks a lot, Young.
Alright, thank you. See ya.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
Bye. Bye-bye.